Hey guys, I'm back with another video, and yes, so Bath & Body Works just released 6 online exclusive candles, I believe on Thursday, in conjunction with the $12.95 sale. So I have them here with me, and we'll talk about them, how they smell, how they compare to the original releases, and we'll get right into it. Yes, so this drop was particularly exciting because it was a lot of like vault candles that had just like dropped without notice or whatever, and it was super fun. They are online exclusive, but because there were so many online exclusives available right now, I was like, yeah, I'm like totally willing to pay the shipping for it and just order them all in one go and call it a day. There are many like obscure, like one-time, like one-hit wonder type of fragrances in this collection as well, so I was like super jazzed to see that. And the fact that they are just like part of just a regular release or a regular collection online, rather than it being like a gimmicky, like member drop, limited edition drop type of thing, it felt like it was actually just a regular release online, and so there was something like kind of fun and exciting about that, versus it being once again like a gimmicky, just like a one hit, like flash in the pan kind of thing. And so that was really fun, and so I was like, oh my god, and it just like put in my order. There was a 15% off pop-up coupon, and I ordered the ones that I didn't like really have too many of in my possession, and there were a few that I skipped out on. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first one we have, this is so funny, I was just talking to a friend about this, and I was like, oh, I'm bummed that Pumpkin Donut Shop hasn't showed up yet, because I bought it last year in the, I think it was a member exclusive drop with the pumpkin nut butter, and then Pumpkin Donut Shop was the returning one. And I've had this fragrance a number of times, but I never really liked it, and I finally grew to appreciate it last year once I realized that like I had to kind of put the marketing and naming aside and just appreciate it for what it was. And I was like, oh my god, if it comes back, I just totally want another one. I kind of like loved the Pumpkin Donut Shop even more than I liked the Pumpkin Nut Butter, but I only bought one of the Pumpkin Donut Shop, but 2 of the Pumpkin Nut Butters. And so lo and behold, here it is. Super simple and basic label, but I don't know, I am just still a sucker for a basic Bath & Body Works rectangular label in a clear jar with colored, or in this case, just white wax. I don't know, there's just something so quintessentially classic, nostalgic fall Bath & Body Works about it that I really enjoy. And most of this collection came with like the decorative lids that they've had before in past years. So yes, glazed donuts, warm pumpkin spices sprinkled with powdered sugar. This one is $24.95 original price, these ones, but of course it was $12.95 with the sale. The smaller rope wicks and clearly the white wax, as you can see right here. And yes, this smells just as it always has before. It's a little bit of an acquired taste. There's that sort of like graham crackery, crumbly, that sort of brown sugar and powdered sugar moment in here for sure. And it reminds me more so of a combination of like those bag of Sweet 16s, which was those like mini white powdered donuts that come in like a paper bag that you can buy at the grocery store. It's very much like the white powdered sugar donuts experience. It smells just like that, but then you also do get kind of like a greasy, like glazed donut, Krispy Kreme moment as well, and that is also mixed into it, and there's absolutely no pumpkin in here whatsoever. And the naming on this is always just so I don't know, misleading to me, because when you think of pumpkin donuts, like, okay, it's like it is a donut shop, but you still put pumpkin in front of it, so you think it's gonna be like a spiced donut fragrance, and it's totally not like that. There's just a dry, almost more like bready, savory feel to this fragrance, but there's still plenty of like a powdered sugar to make it sweet. But yeah, but it does evoke, I guess, walking into a donut shop when it's not pumpkin season. It's more so like just a everyday donut shop fragrance, in the sense that if that donut shop sold both glazed donuts and you smell the glazing and the fried, but also the powdered sugar as well. And yeah, I don't know, it's a weird acquired fragrance, I feel like, and it's nothing at all like what I would imagine a pumpkin donut fragrance to be. But once I move that out and I think, okay, this is a powdered sugar donut plus glazed donut fragrance merged together, then I'm like, it clicks, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of appreciate that. And so I like that. It's just something that only like Bath & Body Works I feel like would put out, because once again, it's just one of those like obnoxious bakery fragrances that it's just like, do I necessarily want my house smelling like greasy glazed donuts and powdered sugar donuts? I don't know, but I'm still totally here for it. So Pumpkin Donut Shop right here. Kind of a novelty fragrance, to be honest, but yes, it still smells the same as it has before. So good to go there, and I hope this year's version burns well. Okay, moving on. Warm apple pie, and that's what that looks like. And we have the red wax, and then we have the lid on this one as well. This one says baked Granny Smith apple, melted brown sugar, and flaky homemade crust. This one has the sort of thicker core wicks on it, as you can see right there. And yes, this one has been out so many times, right? It used to come out into stores and it was just like a cult favorite, but clearly it wasn't so popular enough that it could withstand being in the stores all the time. And also coupled with the performance issues of this candle, it is notoriously and historically, try to combine the two words, notoriously and historically light or duds out, or it's just a terrible burn, like just the whole, all of the above. Even though it's such a great, awesome fragrance. And so that's why this one always kind of like waxes and wanes in terms of like, I guess, popularity and performance. There was one year that it was really strong, but most of the years it's like either unscented or drowns or gets just like totally a hot mess. But we'll see how this year's version goes. But in any case, yes, I do have to say, on cold, there is kind of a weird plasticky, waxy fragrance to this. And the way the waxy plastickiness, it comes off as like butter and like crust that hasn't been baked, mixed with a very like fruity, tart apple fragrance, but the apple almost even leans in like a black cherry type of way as well. So it's almost like you're getting like a apple and cherry filling mixed with a buttery crust. But what I've always liked about this fragrance, and I think this is one of those that just translates and warms up a lot better when you go to burn it, and perhaps that was also its downfall in terms of the cold throw wasn't great, but like online you can't really smell it cold, you know, before you buy it. But in any case, yes, what I did like about this was that emphasis of that buttery crust note in here, and it is prevalent. It's not quite as warm and golden as Berry Waffle Cone, but it does have a similar vibe or feel in terms of that bakery essence that I do appreciate. But in any case, yes, it smells like warm apple pie normally has, but it just smells a little bit more plasticky and waxy and artificial than I had remembered maybe the white wax versions being, but perhaps this is a result of the dye, the red color dye of the wax, maybe leaning it to be a little bit more artificial and waxy as well. And hopefully that will dissipate when you go to burn. But in any case, I'm happy to have another warm apple pie in my stash. I believe I have none in my collection currently. So that was warm apple pie right there. And that one it's like a true bakery apple, whereas like a lot of companies say like apple pie or something, but it's just an apple cinnamon fragrance. This actually smells like it has a bakery crust note, and once again, that's why I appreciate it. Moving on, we have Porchside Pumpkin. I was like, what in the world? Like, that was not on my bingo card for fall 2025 for Bath & Body Works. Just craziness. And so we have that here, and that's what that looks like. It has a very classic orange wax color on it, and for some reason, this one just came with the plain lid. I'm not sure why. Porchside Pumpkin, cardamom spice, and an aromatic wood. This one has a thick rope-like wicks, as you can see right here, and quite a big divot in the dip in the middle. And yeah, wow, does this take me back? Oh my God, it really does smell the same as the original version, but it's just so much more fresh and new and potent that it's just like how I had it in my memory, but turned up by like, I don't know, to like volume 10, you know? Wow. But so the history on this candle was that it was a White Barn exclusive, I believe, and well, I have it here. Let's take a look at the old one. That's what the original release was. Beautiful photo label and like a copper border on there. As you can see, it has a very similar orange wax. That beautiful lid, as you can see right there as well. And they had like candle sleeves that match that type of finish and design as well. Just, this was back in the day. It was 2015 White Barn, when White Barn 2.0 was just starting up, and we were getting those new concept like side-by-side White Barn stores, and White Barn also had like a separate website at one point, and it was just like the static image where they would update the image with like the new locations that were getting a White Barn plus a Bath & Body Works side-by-side store. And I was lucky enough that the city that I was living in had one, and like I was there for the grand opening and everything. And back in the day, the dark, you'll still come across these stores, so you'll see like the White Barn side, even though it's called White Barn, it had a very dark and moody, almost more like upscale, sophisticated feel to it. Kind of thing like if Abercrombie and Fitch the old style ones with the darkness and the wood paneling and all those accents were converted into a candle store. That was very much what the White Barn experience was, but it was also paired with a huge emphasis on home decor elements and beautiful displays, and like totally different from like how they treat White Barn 2.0 now. It was like this beautiful home decor experience as well that had all these third-party accessories that would make up the floor set displays and everything, and they used to use like this scripty font and like a shopkeeper feel and everything, and oh my god, that concept was so much fun. It's just a shame that it's kind of like drifted totally away from that. But in any case, so back in the day in 2015, there only used to be like, I'm just totally making up a number, but anywhere from like 10 to 12 of those new side-by-side concept White Barn stores back in the day. And so this candle was actually a White Barn exclusive at that point. And so like now you might hear White Barn exclusive and be like, okay, what's the big deal? Because there's like usually a White Barn section in like all the Bath and Body Works stores now. But back in the day, those side-by-side stores were not very, there were few and far between. And so like if there were only 12 White Barn stores in the nation at that point, like having a White Barn exclusive candle meant that it was actually very hard to find, and I was just lucky enough to live close to one, so I did indeed buy this one, which was a White Barn exclusive candle. And it just so fondly takes me back to the beginning days of White Barn 2.0, and so that's how this fragrance came about. So a lot of people didn't actually come across it. And so this one says, bring in the welcoming scent of a Porchside Pumpkin blended with cardamom spice and aromatic wood. And so as you can see, the notes are pretty much, yeah, they're totally the same. But this was a 2015 fragrance, and that's what that looked like right there. And yes, so in any case, so of course, I didn't think that fragrance would ever, like, I think it was what, Pumpkin Sugar Cookie was another one of those that was like a White Barn exclusive fragrance as well. But in any case, yes. So I was like, oh my god, I really didn't think that would come back out. So when I saw it, I was like, it wasn't even necessarily my favorite fragrance. Like I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. It was just yet another fragrance. But I mean, of course, if I see it online again, this is 10 years later, it's like finally came back out again. And I think that's just so fun and exciting. And it's something like as a collector, I'm so glad they're like feeding into and finally doing, because for the longest time, they just released the same old repackages. And for the most part, we get the same old tried and true top selling repackages in stores. But if they can throw us a bone and like give us some of these online exclusive collections that have these obscure one-hit wonders and vault releases, I'm totally there for it. And like, you know, there are other companies out there who are like primarily online only candle companies, and you know, they can build a business out of it. So like I love that Bath and Body Works is kind of investing more into the online exclusive section. I don't love paying for shipping, but if it's for fun, exciting releases like this, like totally sign me up. So I'm kind of excited to see if we'll get other surprise drops from them later in the season. But in any case, now that's all the way, what does this smell like? Yeah, it's quite a rustic fragrance. It's what I would just expect, kind of like a old like country store maybe to smell like. So there is kind of like a potpourri type of spicy experience in here that does evoke like a cinnamon spice that is similar to a sort of a craft store experience, but it is paired a little bit with like this sort of like fleshy gourd type of fragrance that you associate more from like a natural like pumpkin flesh, and that's paired with those spices. There's also that cardamom in there that gives it a little bit more of like a warm, creamy, and sort of almost exotic spice element to it that I do enjoy. There's a slightly bitter floral that does kind of evoke this sort of like Mums experience that you see here. A lot of times the Mums are like the sort of go-to fall floral like sort of fragrance note, and they have this sort of like almost bitter and metallic floral quality to it. And so you're getting some of that in here, and maybe like the porch side portion of the note Porchside Pumpkin is kind of alluding to that. But a lot of times I just feel like mum fragrances just aren't very popular or mainstream, or I just feel like they don't sell well, that they probably didn't choose to highlight that. But I believe there is a slightly kind of floral bitter quality in here. And there is also a slightly, almost kind of like a Old Spice men's old-fashioned cologne feel all wrapped up in there as well. So I would say it still has a traditional fall spice fragrance in here, but it's wrapped up with a little bit more of a woody and slight floral note that kind of straddles being cologne-y, but not totally, not like in the way that you expect like the ocean candle to be, but there is a kind of, I don't know, rustic, woodsy feel to this that just gives it a slight like more conceptual quality rather than something like totally on the nose. But in any case, it's still a spicy, rustic, pumpkin-ish concept fragrance is probably the best way to describe it. But yeah, I like it. I mean, it's not something that I would like hoard a ton of, but it does very much evoke the season, and I like how, once again, rustic it feels. So that was Porchside Pumpkin right there. I mean, wow, I really did not expect to ever see this one again. So I'm kind of excited, like the fact that they've like explored this type of like bring back. I really hope we get other exciting like one-off bring backs as well. So super fun with that. And then the last one from that collection that I did purchase was Dutch Apple Waffles. And oh my God, this is another one-hit wonder from 2020. Yes. So this one's warm buttermilk waffles, baked apple slices, and ground nutmeg. It has core wicks on it, which is different from the original release that we had with a similar green colored wax. And yeah, this sure enough smells just like Dutch Apple Waffles used to. And so this one's another one-hit wonder, and I'm like, oh my God, I love these one-hit wonders. So 2020 fall, oh my God, I vividly remember that so much. I like, can anybody forget 2020? You know, it was like that was the year of COVID, and then like you were wearing masks going into the store once the stores reopened later into the fall time. And so because the stores were closed for a while, I kind of like started losing interest in candles, and I just really wasn't burning candles that much. And I remember going into the store and being like, oh, I feel like I don't really need to buy anything. But I was like, let me just get the one new like Dutch Apple Waffles candle or whatever. And I remember buying it, and this was like one of the very first candles that I burned coming like, I guess, out of like once stuff reopened with the COVID pandemic, you know? And so it just has such a like specific memory to it. And I remember like moving into a new house in that time frame. And I remember this was one of the very first candles. It was like that farmhouse on the farm. And so we have the original one here. I believe I bought 2 of these because I did like it so much. And that's what that looks like. And it had that lid on it. And I think it's the same, it is the same notes on here. This was $24.50 back in the day. And it had the rope wicks on it that really nubbed out on me, but I still really enjoy this fragrance. It is another apple bakery fragrance that leans more into the caramel apple territory, but there is a slight kind of, it's not really like cooked or crisp browned waffles in a pumpkin pecan waffles like burnt type of way. It's more so like almost like a batter fragrance. There's something very like ooey gooey, liquidy, and rich about this. And so you get an apple plus a caramel maple blend, and then some kind of like unexplainable bakery waffle batter yumminess mixed underneath it. And yeah, I really enjoy this. It was kind of like the next best thing to my beloved apple pumpkin pancakes. It is not this, but it was similar because this was also a kind of apple and maple experience. This one's spicier. It's more maple forward than it is caramel, and the apple is a little bit more crisp. So there's certainly 2 different fragrances, but obviously it's an apple bakery fragrance, which I really love. So it was similar to that. If you enjoyed fall apple cider, you might also enjoy Dutch Apple Waffle as well. Even though this was called a apple cider fragrance, this is totally just a caramel apple fragrance in my mind. And this one is a little bit more crisp on the apple, whereas this one's a little bit more bakery gourmand. And so I guess for that reason, I still do enjoy how it has a unique bakery component to it. And then we also had apple crisp as well. This is a lot more of that sort of burnt brown crisp type of bakery component is more prominent in here. And this one, while it does have a sort of caramelized sweetness to it, it's a little less like ooey gooey, rich caramel than this is, but all very similar apple bakery fragrances nonetheless. But it still seems to be like unique enough for me that I do enjoy it. So I was excited to see that again. So Dutch Apple Waffles right there. I really didn't think we would see that one again either. So totally jazzed about that. And then lastly, in that collection, I believe we had Harvest Linen, which was totally weird too. I think that was a one-hit wonder from, what is this, 2021? And that's what that looks like right there. Oh my God, this packaging was so much fun, right? And it had that lid on it. And so this one says line-dried linen, fresh pine, and rich musk. And I have burned this one, as you can see right there. this really just smells like a typical laundry fragrance. It does say pine in there, but if pine wasn't listed on there, would I think that this was some kind of like fresh balsam or Christmas tree leaning fragrance? I don't think so. It's in like a similar way where like Pine Sol is a cleaning product and has like a pine leaning fragrance, but it's so like sharp and high pitched that it just turns into like a cleaning product rather than like a natural pine tree. It's that type of feel that I get with the pine note in this, but for all intents and purposes, this is indeed just another laundry fragrance, and it's pleasant enough, but it's nothing groundbreaking. And unfortunately, I have burned this one multiple times, and it's so weak for a laundry fragrance that I just feel like something like Laundry Day or whatever, the Sun Drenched Linen or whatever that's out in the core collection, would just serve you better in terms of a very strong linen fragrance. And because this isn't that unique or groundbreaking, it's like, why would I take that with a low throw versus a dozen other linen fragrances that might exist out there that have a much stronger throw? So this was not a repurchase for me. And then lastly, Pumpkin Peanut Brittle, which is an amazing fragrance, and I don't want to minimize that by any means, but I just have so many backups in my collection that I did not pick that one up. But it's so good. If you haven't tried it out and you like unique gourmand fragrances from Bath & Body Works, certainly check it out. It literally smells like Ritz peanut, like a Ritz cracker with peanut butter smeared on it, and it's not a pumpkin fragrance. Once again, it's more like this sort of caramelized nutty fragrance. And of course, it was the roasted sesame fragrance that we had from this Heritage collection as well. And they smell so, I mean, so incredibly the same. Like, wow. But yes, crunchy caramel brittle, salty peanuts, and toasted pumpkin seeds. And so I guess the pumpkin part of it is more like if you were to toast pumpkin seeds, the pumpkin seeds themselves don't really smell like a pumpkin pie, you know? And so I guess that is what it's trying to reference in terms of it being a pumpkin fragrance. But this is totally salty peanut butter on a Ritz cracker, like just to the T. And it's so scrumptious, it's so delicious. It's just such a strong powerhouse. I mean, it just lingers, and there's almost like this caramel sweetness that like really lingers afterwards. It's just excellent. And so if you enjoyed a roasted sesame or pumpkin peanut brittle, like it's online now as this name right here. So love that fragrance, but just don't need another because I have like all the other iterations. So that was that. Let's see what else. From the other online exclusive collection, which was a nice selection as well, I did end up getting Pumpkin Vanilla Crème because I did not have that in my collection, and since I was doing the online order, let me go ahead and do it. I love the simplicity and the basicness of this label. Oh my god, it just screams classic Bath & Body Works fall, and I'm just like so here for it. Oh my gosh. Creamy pumpkin, vanilla creme, fresh ground nutmeg, and graham cracker crust. Super thick rope wicks with like a cream colored wax, as you can see right here. Oh my god, I love it. This is yet another kind of like acquired fragrance. Like I got my mom to smell it and she was just like, "Ugh, that's so weird. It smells like Fritos. Like why would anyone want that?" But I don't know. It's just another one of those like obnoxiously Bath & Body Works gourmand fragrances that I just like eat up. This originally came out as pumpkin pie. And then they've repackaged it into this name like ever since. I guess it just sells better for some reason as a vanilla creme fragrance rather than pumpkin pie. I don't know. I feel like pumpkin pie is just such a classic and iconic like harvest fragrance. Like why did it not perform well as that name? It just boggles my mind. And something more like neutral like this, I don't know, just performs better. But like this is so undeniably a pumpkin pie fragrance. That graham cracker crust in there is just so crumbly and like pronounced, and I love it because like normally, once again, when you get a pie fragrance, it's more so an emphasis on the filling from other brands and not so much the crust. But this one is just heaps of a crust note, and then you get the pumpkin pie filling in there, and it's not too incredibly spicy in like a sweet cinnamon pumpkin type of way, but it's spiced enough that you know it's supposed to be like a fall pumpkin fragrance. I love it. Yeah. I mean, on cold, like I don't get the weird like jalapenos note, but there is still a like Fritos invoking crumbly crust note in there for sure. That kind of smells like tortilla chips, but it's not as like awful as that screwed up like jalapeno version that we got that one year or whatever it was. Like I'm not getting traces of that. This just smells like classic, like what the pumpkin pie fragrance smelled like when it first came out. I don't know. I think this is the best pumpkin pie fragrance on the market. I just freaking love it. So pumpkin vanilla creme right there. And then lastly, we had Welcome Home is now on online. I mean, it was It was so originally I believe it was in stores, but then it went online exclusive for the longest time, and then now it's back in stores again. And I was like, you know what, I have to reward Bath and Body Works and vote with my wallet that when they take the online exclusive fragrances and bring them into stores, I feel like I just kind of need to buy it to support that. And so that's why I bought it. Ugh, I am just not a fan of this label. Oh my God. And then this whole collection is just like all boring repackages that have no business having another release in this collection. Like pumpkin apple is in here again, pumpkin spice latte again, sweater weather again, blush amber and peony. I'm just like, what in the world is up with these whack ass like boring fragrances? And so Welcome Home is like the only one in this collection that's like even remotely interesting, I guess because like it's normally online exclusive, and I was just excited to be able to pick it up in stores for $12.95 without having to pay for shipping. And that's what this was. But this was just the cinnamon sugar, warm apple butter, clove buds, and brown sugar. I already burned it and it was fine. I liked it. This is so immensely similar to the cinnamon pretzel twist spice it up fragrance from years back, as well as bonfire s'mores. It's a super buttery, almost pretzel dough type of fragrance in here, but it's sweetened a little bit more so than like sugared pretzel twist because it does have a supposed apple butter note in there that does give it a slightly fruitier, sweeter, brighter feel that kind of balances out those more heavy, buttery, doughy pretzel dough and saltiness that you could get from a pretzel fragrance. But this totally smells like a pretzel with, I guess, a little bit of apple butter on it. But God, it's just so incredibly buttery. I mean, you really have to enjoy a full-blown butter fragrance. And so we have Sugar Pretzel Twist, which I actually end up enjoying from SAS, and I believe it's 75% off now. And they share similarities in that buttery dough like undertone or base is most certainly prominent in both of them. But this one is indeed much saltier, and you get more of a dough experience, more of a true savory feel to this. And this one has a little bit of like a cinnamon sugar. This one's just much, sweeter and brighter and not salty as opposed to this one. So yes, this one's more savory and this one's a little bit more sweet and gourmand, but sibling fragrances for sure. So that was Welcome Home right there. And let's see, I visited a friend over the weekend and they had some of the Nashville testing fresh and clean Wallflowers, and so they were kind enough to give me a few of them. So I have Shimmering Gold right here, and this one's the Vibrant Orange Pressed Rosemary and Suede Musk, and this one smelled like a bar of like a Dial soap is what the conclusion we came to. And I believe there's a 24 karat gold fragrance back in the day that smelled like a similar laundry soapy fragrance. I never owned it and only briefly smelled it in store, so I can't say with confidence of a repackage, but this does smell like literally a bar soap. There was also an Evening Reset in that collection, so I did get that one. And this one was a Pink Orchid, Velvet Musk, and Warm Sandalwood. I read that backwards. Warm Sandalwood, Velvet Musk, and Pink Orchid. This is like a sort of warm floral fragrance. It didn't really wasn't reminiscent of an exact product on the market like some of the other ones in this collection were, but it was nice enough. Let's see what else. There's a Sunday Snuggles, which smelled very much like some kind of market fabric softener product. There was also a Clean House vibes pine fragrance that literally smelled just like pine sol, so that existed as well. And I think there was another one, like a Clean Routine fragrance that had kind of like a apple laundry vibe to it as well. They were all very much like kind of in the fresh and clean route, which is not totally my favorite category, but I feel like they're just testing the popularity of the Wallflowers, and in conjunction with them probably being used in like laundry rooms and bathrooms and catering to that experience, I think is what is going on. And so that's why there's so many of these like duplicate cleaning product fragrances into Wallflowers that are happening, and then they test them in the Nashville Wallflower test market, and then whatever does well then goes nationwide. And I think that's what's happening here. So super fun and grateful to be able to have smelled those and then had some of those, and then also got some of those as well. So awesome, cool. I think that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know down below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.